G'day folks, you're listening to the podcast It's the Whiskey Talking with Harrie and Craig. In this podcast we take a light-hearted look at our current favourite whiskey, things that have got us thinking lately, other things that just pop into our heads while we're talking, and matters that have slowly taken on more significance as we ease our way into the last third of our lives. So kick back, pour yourself a pleasing beverage, and join us on our search for wisdom, thinly disguised as mates having a bit of a banter. G'day, Harrie.
G'day, Craig. How are you?
Good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. I'm good.
Feel like a drink?
Certainly do.
I believe you've got a whiskey for me today.
Yes, mate. I've got a 15-year-old. It's the Singleton 15-year-old, and I'm going to read, because it's a fairly long tasting notes.
I'll have a drink while you do it.
Okay, well, I've got to read through the tasting notes so that I'm going to have a drink, because I reckon probably part of this, I think we need to have a side award for the most wanky tasting notes. They get bigger and better, and I think I read through these and I think, wow, if you could actually do that and put that in a bottle, it would be fantastic.
Be worth the price of
yeah,
admission. Exactly.
But I mean, I don't know. It's I guess it's like wines or anything. You know, you have these tasting notes that paint an absolutely amazing picture, and yet, I mean, it's a great whiskey. I enjoy it, but I don't know that I'm getting, unicorn farts. But anyway, here we go. So I'm going to. This is only not all of it. I'm reading a bit of it. So on the palate, this whiskey is soft, sugary, sweet, and gentle. There's a real burst of sweetness initially from the Muscovado sugar.
God.
I don't know what that is. Muscovado sugar. I think that's how I pronounce it. Sugar and milk chocolate notes to the fore. Then comes the soft baked apple with accompaniment of vanilla, custard, and butterscotch sauce. See, that's what I'm going to wait till.
Sounds like the ideal dessert, doesn't it?
It does. Further notes of soft fudge, creamy toffee, and a hint of apricot jam add to the sweetness and depth. Are you getting any of that? We still go. There's a lot more. Don't worry.
Okay.
I haven't tried it yet. I mean, I have tried it, but I haven't had it today. There are plenty of dried spices in this mid palate. These develop nicely and are oaky and warming. Think of a woody spice such as a cinnamon bark, nutmeg, and a suggestion of clove. I'm not a big fan of cloves. A hint of drying nuttiness also evolves. This is reminiscent of creamy Brazil nut and toasted walnut. The delicious baked apple notes holds throughout and is joined at the death by a hint of dried orange. So look, I mean, I've got a bowl of dried fruit and sweets here, and nuts now coming. So it's a lot of stuff to put in one bottle. The finish is soft, sweet, and a little short. Is that a good thing? The sugary and fruity characteristics fade to leave the malty biscuits and warming spice elements to linger. A hint of drying cocoa powder and freshly baked ginger cake sit in the background.
Amazing.
That's got to win. That's going to be close to the win.
I can't top that one.
No, that's pretty serious. So,
so do I get all of those, or do I get a small? Do I get any of those?
I don't know. Depends on how you're feeling for the day. I mean, if you drink it, but maybe after dinner, so sweet, you might pick up some of the sweeter tones.
I mean, it's no doubt it's a delicious whiskey, so I'm not denigrating that. But it's extraordinary what people can appreciate from a taste.
But in saying that, it is quite complex. I'm getting probably some of that stuff. I suppose if I read through it again as I'm tasting, I might taste some more. I'm getting a bit of vanilla. I can't. It's a nice smell too.
What I find amazing is not only can someone get that much out of a taste, but when you're drinking something like whiskey, that is quite a strong alcoholic concentration, and you drink it for long enough to get all that stuff. How much is your perception being affected by the alcohol you have?
Yeah, exactly.
So you really have to write it down quick before it starts changing.
That's right. And I think that too. And you're going to start tasting things that probably weren't there when you first tasted it. But maybe they were. Maybe it's just the air and the oxidization of the oils. I don't know. Or maybe it's just getting more and more plastered. And you can start to see these things that you couldn't see earlier, or taste these things.
Anyway, very enjoyable nonetheless.
It is very nice.
Thank you for that one. So anything been on your mind this week, Harrie?
Well, no, I was as I was thinking as I was driving to the wardrobe today, I was thinking, what have I got to talk about? And all I can say is work's been pretty busy at the moment, and I've been thinking a lot about that and trying to organise stuff. Probably because I've got the next couple of weeks, not this weekend, but the following week, 2 weekends, we're having long weekends. So I'm mindful of the fact that I'm going to lose days, and I don't seem to have enough days at the moment to do what I need to do. Not because I've got a great pile on, it's just I'm getting slower at doing it. So that's in my mind. But like I've always said, I think when you know you've got a holiday coming, I think the best thing that can possibly happen is you get busy as hell, because you then feel you're justified to have a holiday because you've been busy. And also, you know that you're going to come back to some work. You're not going to be coming back to nothing. So, yeah. So I'm looking forward to a couple of weekends away.
So often it's been my experience that when I've got a holiday planned and I'm working towards it, that I have to do a whole stack of work before the holiday.
Oh, yeah. That's always the case.
And then there's a whole lot of work after the holiday that I've missed out on doing. So it's almost as if I have to work twice as hard just to be able to take the time off, which is not the idea of a holiday, really. I mean, we're supposed to be allowed to have holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I mean, not funny, but I guess in your role, you get, X number of holidays a year, and you take those, and people know that you're taking them. I guess in my role, people know that you're self-employed, so there is not an understanding that you do take holidays. Because why are you taking holidays now? It's not school holidays, or it's not this, or it's not normal holidays. And you often have to take holidays when it's not normal holidays, so people don't understand that it's holidays. Like I say to Trace, it's only a couple of times in the year where you can get away with it, and that's probably Easter and the Christmas New Year break, because people expect that you're not going to be at work because no one else is. Any other time, you can almost hear it in their voices if you're speaking to them on the phone. Huh? What do you mean you're on holidays? So, but I think, and Tracy even said the other day that it's a dead set cert, especially for me, that if work's ever quiet, just think to myself, let's have a holiday, and bang, it'll go crazy. So that's what happens. But yeah, it'll be nice to get away taking the caravan, and the first weekend we're ducking down to Albany. Our daughter and partner have got a wedding down there, and so we've got to babysit the dog and the granddaughter and our dog as well, so we'll take them down there. We've found a farm stay down there, so that'll be great. Nice.
Yeah, your experience about work coming when you're thinking about a holiday, it's like we live in a nice quiet street, but if you want to see a car drive up the street, all you got to do is reverse your own car into the driveway. Sure enough, you have to wait for someone to go
exactly.
past.
Exactly. That's when the e-scooter is going to come thundering down.
Yes. Well, one thing been on my mind this week, it's only a small thing, but it sort of takes up on a theme that we talked about in a previous episode, and that is about customer service.
Oh, yeah.
Nikki and I went out for dinner on the weekend, and
we were supposed to come but couldn't.
Yeah, well, luckily you didn't. I don't think it was good value, and I would have been embarrassed for you to have experienced that. But we ordered this lovely dip for entree, and it was actually a very nice dip, and it came with a whole lot of pita bread. But as we've experienced at other times, they don't give you nearly enough dip for the amount of they don't give you nearly enough bread for the dip that they give you.
Yeah.
And so, of course, you have to order some more bread.
And they charge you for it?
And they charge you for it.
Oh, you're joking.
And I think they've done this on purpose.
Yeah.
And, it's only a small thing, and I don't think we were charged a lot for the bread. But I thought, that's the sort of thing that a customer thinks about when they decide whether or not to go to a restaurant.
You can only go one way, and it's not their way.
Yeah.
You're going to walk out of there saying, you bunch of bastards. Where if you had the extra bread, or had given it to you for free, you'd be talking a different story right now.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
I haven't heard the rest of the story, but
no, well, that was it. I mean, it was essentially, it's just the idea that I suspect that, this restaurant's in a place where there are a lot of tourists, and they probably are banking on people not really thinking to come back again, because they probably won't ever visit that place again. But for us locals, it's a bit of a pain, because we're not going to go back there again because we've had a bad experience.
But that must not the dilemma, but that must be the decision, I guess, a restaurateur or the owner would make. Am I catering for the locals who are probably going to come down every Tuesday night for pensioners night, or and not spend a lot of money and not hang around, or am I going to cater for those that get them in once and get them in hard because you won't see them again because they're tourists?
Yeah, and I suspect this place was banking on the latter. So it's disappointing, but it's also another lesson for us. I mean, we've been burned a few times at this area where these restaurants are, and we should have realised that, let's not go to those tourist restaurants because we're probably going to get treated like tourists, and that's not the best way to be sometimes.
I'll tell you what, I'm talking about dealing with catering for locals. Have you been with us to our local Indian?
Yes. That's an awesome place.
That's where they get last week. I mean, it is one of those ones where there'll be no one in there, and we'll ring just because we can, and we'll have a table set for us. And I walk in. Priya knows exactly what we want and I'll think sometimes I'm ordering something different. She'll just look at me and say, "That's your normal order." So
she knows you better than you.
So I just give up now. I say, Priya, just get us some normal stuff. And it's quite reassuring for that. It's quite nice. And it's a BYO, so we can sit there and have our own drinks, and it's cheap. That she doesn't charge they don't charge corkage or anything else. And in fact, the other day we were sitting with friends, and we do what we call Tight Ass Thursday, which is every second week. And we try to go somewhere cheap, and it becomes our default. If we can't think of anywhere else to get a palmy and a pint or something, we'll go there. And so we're sitting there for a while, and our two friends now are both retired. Great. Which is where we're heading towards. So they're in no hurry to go home, and it's always usually a Wednesday or a Thursday. And so I said, let's go get some sweets. And I thought there's an IGA very close, and it was going to get shutting very soon. So I'll go get some Magnums or something. And Tracy said, "You can't do that. You can't sit in this restaurant and eat Magnums from takeaway."
You want to eat in the restaurant?
Priya, it's fine. There was no one else in there. Priya was fine. I said, "You can't do that." I said, "It'd be fine."
Do they normally serve desserts in that restaurant?
Well, okay, this is where we're headed. So I said, "Priya, is it okay?" And she said, "Yeah, it's okay." She said, "Well, how about you try the Indian? We've got a special Indian one." I said, "Oh, I'm not a big fan of that particular any sort of weird ass honey dipped stuff, and I'm not a big fan of it." So I thought, okay, yep, or yogurty stuff. I'm not a big fan of either. So she said, "No, we'll bring them out. And her dad makes these things. So I had the pistachio one, and the other three had the mango one. She said, "But next time, please tell me a bit earlier, because they were like a sorbet or an ice cream, but quite hard because she'd just taken them out of the freezer." Yeah, right. And I said, "Your dad make these?" And she said, "Yeah, her dad owns a restaurant. He's the chef." And they were really good. But she said, we do have Magnums as well. That would have been really bad. But it's not BYO sweets, Harry. Do you mind? But yeah, so again, I mean, the service was wonderful. Yeah. The prices are good, and she doesn't care that we sit there.
And yeah, because the service is so good, you guys keep coming back.
Always. And we've got so many people. We've got people, my sister and her husband and everything, they'll come and they drive, probably half an hour to get there, or 40 minutes, whatever it is to get there. For us, we can walk down there or ride a bike. So yeah, it's nice to have. It's nice to have that, and I think there's a lot to be said for catering for the locals when you can. But I understand the restaurant you went to, and I can understand why they probably don't, but probably different.
Yeah. All right, well, we've got a very special guest today. So I give a little bit of an introduction beforehand, so I won't repeat that. So let's just listen to our guest. Our special guest today is Professor Rob Newton. Rob's the Professor of Exercise Medicine at Edith Cowan University's Exercise Medicine Research Institute. Before we talk to Rob, just a few vital statistics. Rob has published over 950 scientific papers, 3 books, 17 book chapters, and has a Scopus H index, for those who know what that means, of 90, which is very high. His work has been cited by others over 35,000 times. He has also attracted over $45 million in competitive research funding. And in recognition of these and his many other achievements, he has just been made a member of the Order of Australia, an AM, in the recent Australia Day Honours list. This all translates into he knows his stuff and is considered an expert in his field. So what is his field, and why have we invited him onto the podcast? Well, let me answer the second question first. Rob and I have worked at ECU together for over 25 years, and I've always known him to be a very clear communicator, a damn good scientist, and a lovely guy. With respect to his field and why it might be relevant to the audience of this podcast, let's allow Rob to speak for himself. G'day, Rob. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Craig. Thanks so much. It's always good to catch up.
Yeah, I'm sorry I can't offer you a whiskey. We are currently in different cities. I'm in Perth and you're in Brisbane.
Oh, that's all right, mate. That's all right. Next time, you owe me one.
As a bit of a warm-up, I wonder if you could tell us what is exercise medicine?
Well, Craig, I have this discussion a lot with my clinical colleagues, and they say, no, exercise is great, but it's not a medicine. Well, I beg to differ. And the reason why is that when we exercise, we have enormous changes in the internal biochemistry of our body, the internal structures, everything, you name it. We have a whole bunch of hormones released. We have huge changes in our circulation throughout our tissues and everything else. So it is a medicine, it's a lever, because what it does is when we exercise, it switches on certain processes and mechanisms within the body. And these processes and mechanisms are actually crucial for survival. And so just like when you take a pharmaceutical drug, and an exogenous drug, a drug from without, like aspirin, for example, then it has anti-inflammatory properties. Well, when you take exercise, it creates endogenous medicine. So it creates medicines within the body which are anti-inflammatory. So my argument is that, yes, exercise is a medicine. And it's, the nice thing about exercise is it treats all chronic diseases simultaneously. There's not a single chronic disease which is not have benefit from exercise medicine.
That sounds fantastic. So what are some of the issues with the body that you've been focusing on in terms of researching the effects of exercise medicine?
Well, Craig, I started out back in 1994. Geez, that's a long time ago now, isn't it? But I was looking at how we could improve physical function in old men, and we were using really targeted exercise there to try and make them stronger, and in particular to address the loss of what we call fast twitch fibers. So these are muscle fibers that are responsible for getting us out of a chair or helping us do those rapid movements that are so important in daily living. And so that's where I started. But my father was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and this is about 29 years ago. And he subsequently had a prostatectomy, had his prostate removed. He then had 6 weeks of radiation therapy. And he had this overwhelming fatigue, a lot of side effects of treatment. He was cured of his prostate cancer, but he rapidly declined, and 2 years later he had a stroke, and then he rapidly declined from there. And so I became very interested in using exercise as a medicine in the management of cancer. And so that's what I've sort of devoted the last 25 years to, is specifically looking at how we can use exercise to improve outcomes for people with cancer. In particular, I started out looking at reducing the side effects of treatment. So as I said with my dad, he received radiation therapy and he had terrible, terrible side effects from that, the worst of which is this overwhelming fatigue. And we now know that really the only treatment for cancer-related fatigue is exercise. And I also became very interested over the last 10 to 15 years in how exercise facilitates other treatments. So we now know that certain exercise improves the effectiveness of chemotherapy. It improves the effectiveness of immunotherapy as well, and radiation therapy. And more recently, over the last 10 years, I've been really looking into the mechanisms by which exercise as a medicine directly suppresses the progression of cancer. And so exercise creates a more cancer suppressive environment, an environment within the body which tends to reduce the tendency of cancer cells to become more lethal forms. And so I've been very, very interested in that and how we can reduce the risk of metastasis. Most cancers are not very easy, but they're easier to treat and less mortality when they're stage 3 or less. In other words, they haven't metastasized, they haven't traveled to other parts of the body. But as soon as cancer's metastasized, it's very, very difficult to treat. And so I've been very interested in how exercise can reduce the tendency for cancer cells to actually travel to other parts of the body. And that's been my research.
Okay. And I saw one of your videos recently about the effects of exercise on muscle loss, and clearly that's a way of reversing some of the effects of the other treatments that are usually given when people have cancer. Is that right?
Yeah, look, I think we've got a tsunami coming of health problems related to low muscle mass. Now, very low muscle mass is termed sarcopenia. And the difficulty is that a larger and larger proportion of this human population are pre-sarcopenic, so they have low muscle mass, or they actually have sarcopenia. So this is, critically low muscle mass. And the reason why is that in modern society, we reduced through either work or through play, sport, or through physical exercise, we reduce the amount of resistance training that we do. So lifting heavy things. We don't do that. We've got machines that do that now. And so we quite avoid that. And it's also compounded by a lot of other factors. I have real concerns about the new weight loss drugs, the GLP-1 inhibitors, because what we see is that with the weight loss that occurs, they're fantastic for losing weight, but about a third of the weight loss is lean muscle mass. And so this is actually causing these people going on these weight loss drugs to have worse body composition, more risk of metabolic disease, and most concerningly is development of low muscle mass at a young age, frailty, and then, of course, from there, quality of life plummets, and then you're in dependent care, and it's a pretty bad journey from there. So, that's a real concern. And so we've been looking a lot at how we can actually use very targeted exercise to either slow or reverse the loss of muscle mass. And muscle mass, of course, is a consequence of cancer, in particular some of the treatments as well. So particularly your hormone treatments. So for prostate cancer, men receive androgen deprivation therapy, which effectively chemically castrates them. And so their cells can't access testosterone anymore. That's a very strong anabolic hormone. And so their muscles shrink very, very quickly. That's a concern. But other drugs as well, chemotherapy can be very hard on the muscles, and certainly the steroid therapy that a lot of patients receive as well for their cancer treatment. So low muscle mass is a major problem for people with cancer. Their risk of all other diseases go up because of it. Their risk of frailty goes up. But in particular, there's a very strong relationship between low muscle mass and poor survival in people with cancer. And so we need to work very, very hard to try and prevent that, because it's a strong driver of why people actually succumb to the disease.
Okay. So how successful have your programs been in terms of recovery from cancer?
Well, the great thing about exercise, it has no side effects. It just only has really benefits, which is fantastic. And the greatest difficulty we face is getting patients to engage with it. And, when you've got cancer and you're feeling really unwell and you've got all these appointments, you're probably still working, you might be caring for children or older parents or whoever. And so you're very busy. And then asking them to say, look, you're going to have to do exercise on top of this. And they've never exercised before. The challenge is getting them to start to exercise. But what we see is, of course, when we exercise, we get lots of lovely drugs released into our brain. We get endorphins and cannabinoids and all sorts of other things, which really, make us feel better. And so what I find is quite quickly they get addicted to those drugs, and they get used to the exercise habit. And then, then they're hooked, and they, in the main, they'll continue on. But it's just very much the challenge is getting to initiate that when they feel that poorly and you're asking them to lift weights, for example. And so that's generally the challenge that we have. But of course, once they're exercising, then you're getting all these very positive changes that are occurring in the body, and they start to realise that wow, I'm finding it easier to get on and off the toilet, or in and out of the lounge chair. And people are saying how good I look, and it's not vanity. It's just, when you've got cancer and someone says, wow, you're actually looking quite well, then, that's a lot of positive reinforcement as well. Yeah, I don't think I even answered your question then, Craig. I'm sorry.
Well, you were talking about you gave the idea that exercise is sort of self-reinforcing in many respects, but I was also asking, is that helping with the recovery from cancer? How successful has it been in helping people get better with the cancer?
I think think we're about at 50 trials now that we've run of varying sizes in people with cancer across a range of cancers, prostate, breast, colon, lung, brain cancers included, a whole range of cancers, ovarian cancers as well. And I think probably some of the highlights was, I think, our team at ECU, we were the first in the world to show that we could prevent bone loss in men on testosterone suppression. So when you take testosterone away from a person, they lose bone mass very, very rapidly. Again, testosterone is critical for maintaining bone health. So if you remove that, then they lose bone. And of course, that's not a good outcome because they get osteoporosis. They're generally older. If they fall and break a hip, they're unlikely to survive 6 months. So, that was one of the key outcomes. We could actually prevent it entirely. I think also in that work, we also showed that in the past, it was tended to be in cancer care that we'd wait, let's wait till the person's completed treatment before they exercise. Let's get it all over with, get their chemo or their radiation therapy done, and then we'll have them start exercising. Again, we were one of the first in the world to show that it's more effective to start at the point of diagnosis. So, look, I'm sorry you've got cancer. This is our recommended treatment course, and you need exercise medicine to keep you functional and reduce the side effects and improve your outcomes, and introduce it then rather than wait 3 or 6 months until the patient's really deconditioned and developed a whole lot of comorbidities, diabetes, their heart cardiovascular risk has gone up, and then try and dig them out of that hole. I mean, it does work. The rehabilitation does work, but it's much better if you implement it as what's called a first-line treatment. So that's a treatment which is given up front.
So these fabulous effects, do they apply to all cancers? I mean, do different cancers require different types of exercise?
That's a really, really good question. We've moved from a general recommendation, and so back in 2010, I think it was, the American Cancer Society brought out a general recommendation that people with cancer and post-treatment should exercise on most, if not every day, and try to accumulate 75 to 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous aerobic exercise and 2 or more resistance training or strength training sessions each week. And what we found was that a lot of people with cancer, particularly advanced cancers or those that were undergoing difficult treatments, they would really struggle with that. There's no way that they could get anywhere near that. And so in 2019, we published the Australian guidelines, and in that we recommended that the exercise prescription be tailored to the individual. And so depending on the cancer type, stage of disease, and even the treatments that they are undergoing as well, that exercise should be highly tailored to that individual. And so what we're seeing then is that we can treat, exercise will benefit all patients of cancer, regardless of what type it is, stage of treatment, even at all stages of the disease. But it's just how do we tailor the exercise specifically to their individual situation to get the best outcome, but also something which is achievable. Someone who is undergoing immunotherapy, for example, for multiple myeloma, for example, there's no way that they're able to meet the current guidelines. It's just not possible. But we actually look, we do a whole bunch of assessment on them, look at their immune function, look at their cardiovascular risk, look at their bone health, their body composition. Are they low muscle mass? Are they high fat mass, etc.? Are they chronically inflamed? And so we've got blood markers for that. And then what we do is work out, well, what is going to cause the greatest risk of morbidity or mortality? And then we target laser-like on that. And so the exercise program might consist purely of some very targeted resistance training. It might involve them doing a body weight resistance training program, morning and night, 3 days a week. That might be it. That might, because they're normal body fat, their cardiovascular risk is not that high. If they want to go for a walk, they can. But we'd be focusing on, look, your muscle mass is low, and so we have to turn that around. We just focus on that. So again, highly tailored program. So yes, exercise, there is not a cancer where exercise won't have benefit. It is about tailoring it to the individual.
Okay. So the focus of what we've been talking about so far appears to be facilitating the rehabilitation of people who are being treated for cancer. Does exercise have a similarly beneficial effect in terms of prevention of cancer in the first place?
It depends on the cancer, Craig. Probably the strongest reduction in risk is for colon cancer, actually. And the reason for this is that people who are physically active, they tend to have a faster mobility of their digestive contents through their gut. One of the strong drivers for colon cancer is a slow gut, if you like, and exercise speeds that up. And so, and the reduction in risk, depending on the study, these are very large studies with thousands or tens of thousands of people. It's about a reduction of risk of somewhere between 10 and 20%. Your risk of developing cancer in the first place. There's a relationship between amount of physical activity and prostate cancer as well. That's relatively low. It reduces risk again by about 10 to 15%. Breast cancer as well, its reduction of risk. That's probably to do with estrogen processes there. So the mechanisms are that if someone's sedentary, particularly if they have high fat mass, then if they have a estrogen responsive cancer or risk of cancer, then being physically inactive greatly increases their risk. And we're seeing now that the incidence of breast cancer is really increasing, and it's occurring in younger people. And that's a concern, and it's related to changes predominantly in body composition, where the world's population in the main has high levels of fat, lower levels of muscle. Fat produces estrogen. And so if they have the particular gene which is responsive to that, their risk of breast cancer is much, much higher. So exercise does play a role in overall reducing the risk. It varies across cancer, and it's not huge. It's probably, around, somewhere between 5 and 10 to 20% reduction in risk.
Well, given that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, what sorts of things could people be doing to, if they take advantage of that reduction in risk? I mean, are there particular types of exercises that are better than others in that sense?
No, it comes back to that generic recommendation. The amount of epidemiological evidence now is huge. It's not just for cancer, it's cardiovascular disease, metabolic syndrome, so things like type 2 diabetes, for example, obesity. And the evidence is exceptionally strong. And the overall recommendation is that it should be multimodal. In other words, they should do a combination of aerobic exercise, so that's like you're swimming, you're jogging, you're rowing, you're dancing, whatever. But you also, and that's around 75 to 150 minutes per week. So 75 minutes of vigorous exercise, but each minute of vigorous exercise counts as 2 minutes of moderate exercise. So it's 150 minutes of moderate or a combination. But also what's increasingly we're trying to emphasise, because people have been really thinking about aerobic exercise. And, I walk, I get my 10,000 steps and that, but it's only part of the actual maintaining and supporting the physiology of the body. People must do resistance training every week, and it's 2 or more sessions of resistance training. If you only do 2 sessions a week, you have to exercise all of the major muscle groups of the body. Preferably you would do more than 2, but 2 is the minimum to maintain your muscle, the health of your skeletal muscle system.
So what do you think is the level of knowledge out there about these sorts of things from the perspective of both, say, the medical field and the public?
Craig, I think it's changed dramatically over the last 5 years, and it's because of obviously social media. And so, and AI. I mean, people have access now to an incredible volume of knowledge. The problem with that is, of course, there's a lot of false knowledge or fake news. It's been the term used now. And so there's a whole lot of, rubbish things which are detrimental to people. I won't go into all the supplements that people push and everything else. Let's just stick in exercise. But, there's a huge social media presence now around Tai Chi walking, for example. And there's nothing special about Tai Chi walking. It's not magic or anything like that. It's exercise. It has benefit because the person's actually doing exercise. And I suppose if it gets them to exercise, then it's better than nothing. Is it optimal? No. Again, the optimal is those guidelines I've just given you around exercise, but you see other things like I see pops up all the time in my feed is the chair yoga, and where you do a whole bunch of exercises on a chair. Is it better than nothing? Of course it is. there's 2 in 3 people in Australia and pretty much worldwide are sedentary or do not meet the minimum World Health Organization recommendations for exercise or physical activity. So doing something's better than nothing. Doing more is better than little, and doing optimal obviously is where we really need to get to.
Yep. All right. Well, given all of the work that you've been doing in this area, what lessons have you learned about giving yourself the best chance of a long life? And I guess, you obviously say exercise, but is there anything else about life that you think helps?
Be funny. Life's not that serious. Life's not that serious. Just be funny. Look, it's not my field, but I do read the papers and I review the papers for different journals and things like that. But obviously we have a major problem in terms of the food industry and how food and supplements and a whole bunch of other products are marketed by corporations. I mean, these are multi-billion-dollar corporations that make food, unhealthy, highly processed food, very, very accessible and relatively cheap. Although sometimes it's not that cheap, but they market it exceptionally well. And I think probably one of the other key things, and this is one of our colleagues as well, Professor Amanda Devine, and, her recommendation is very strong. Predominantly eat a plant-based whole food diet. Yeah, look, at meat's fine. There's nothing wrong with meat, fresh meat. Processed meat's problematic. There's strong relationships between different diseases and overconsumption of your processed meats. But obviously protein's very important, and getting a little bit of meat is it's not deadly or anything like that. But it comes back to plant-based whole foods and sourced as close to your house as you possibly can. So don't buy oranges from California. No, I'm not picking on California. It's just they've come from the other side of the planet. So you can imagine how much nutrient they've got by the time they land here. And also, she makes a very good point. I think there's a lot of great research now around gut microbiome. And, we spend a lot of time in clinical practice actually analysing gut microbiome in our cancer patients, and then making recommendations around exercise, because exercise has a huge effect on the gut microbiome, but also around food and supplements that we do. And I've been collaborating with a professor in the UK who's a bit of a whiz on this, and we've published some astonishing work. I won't go into it, but in the use of plant phyto products in combination with products which promote the gut microbiome. So the gut microbiome is something we're going to see a lot more, and people are going to have to look after it a lot better than what we do. Again, it comes back to Amanda's point. Buy food sourced as close to your house as you possibly can, because it has the right bacteria in it. So if you go to the Sterling markets, which I go to, and you buy fruit which is grown in the Adelaide Hills, in the Perth Hills, or has been growing in Lancelin. People internationally or away from WA got no idea what I'm talking about. But these are farms which are just out the road. They're 30 minutes from my house. You're buying food there. It's absolutely covered in bacteria which are really, really good for you. Bacteria which is local. It's going to really give your gut that local bacteria which is so healthy, rather than buy something that was grown in Lithuania. Not picking on Lithuania, but I'm stop picking on California. Lithuania, it's a whole different bacterial profile.
All right, well, I'm going to start to wind it up now, but I want to change tack just a little. So given that you're just a little bit older than me and my co-host Harrie, am I correct to assume that you might be at the very least starting to think about what retirement might look like for you? Have you started to plan for it, or is it still just a vague thought at this stage?
Oh, Craig, I've been planning for retirement for the last 30 years. Not because not because I'm looking forward to it or I want to get there quicker or anything like that. I'm very happy with what I'm doing, and I have no plans to retire at the moment. I'm 64 next month. I can see another 6 years, work till I'm 70, and then I'll see. If I'm still enjoying it, I'll keep going. If I'm not, at the moment I'm not enjoying it, mate, I'm out of here. And, I'll get into retirement. Grandkid children, as you well know, may make a difference to that. Haven't gotten it yet, but that might turn things around. Look, my dad growing up with my dad, he planned for a long time and spent a lot of time focusing on superannuation. Now, this is in the 70s and 80s when superannuation wasn't really a thing. It wasn't compulsory in Australia, but he voluntarily contributed to his super right through there. And he used to tell me, son, you've got to work in your superannuation. And I was 19 or something. I went, you've got to be kidding, Dad. But, I think through that, I have started to plan for, financially, I guess, for that. But also, like yourself, I love my music. And so, I'm still doing my guitar practice and my piano practice. I'm hopeless at it. But, when I get to retirement, I really want to go to formal lessons and really ramp those things up. And I can't, few of my mates have retired. Most of my mates are retired. And, they spend most of their time at the golf club and, at the bowling club drinking beer. I can't do that. There's no way in the world I can go drinking every day. A good whiskey on a Friday night's awesome, but I can't sit in a bar all day, and I can't play golf every day either. I've got to have more variety in that. So that's what I'm planning. Lots of variety, lots of new things. Learning a language. I'm working hard on my Italian at the moment because Lisa and my wife like to go to Italy regularly. So working on our languages, just trying to keep growing and evolving.
All right. Well, thank you very much for all of that, Rob. That's been very informative, and I'm sure our audience will get a lot out of that. And we'll put a few links in the notes for the various websites that you've got some information up. So thanks again, Rob, and good luck with your retirement plans.
It's a bit of a way off yet. Thanks, Craig. Really appreciate it, mate. And I will take you up on that Scotch, that whiskey one day.
Yes, do indeed.
Absolutely. Cheers, mate.
Oh, well, that was really good. Rob's pretty interesting, isn't he? And he's got lots of information that I think most of our audience would be interested in.
Mate, he's an amazing. I've never met him, but sounds very, very relatable. And obviously you've known him for a while and worked closely with him or worked in the same place with him. So, yeah, seems like an amazing guy. He seems to be, we don't know, is he from Perth? Because
I think originally from New South Wales.
Okay, because he was talking about the local markets, his local markets.
No, but he's certainly been living here for a long time.
Yeah, because that's our local markets as well, which you don't get down there very often, but it's only down the road. We can walk down there. So things that I guess hit home to me when listening to him was that besides the fact he's very relatable, and you could quite easily sounds like you have a beer with him or maybe a whiskey. So that's the thing too. If he comes back over here and he's having whiskey, you can't not have me.
Oh, definitely.
I'll have to be there. I'll even provide the whiskey if that's the case. If I've got to do that just to buy my way in. But yeah, I think the first thing he said was something that I think Tracy mentioned as well, was that exercise is a medicine. I think Tracy said something about if she could have exercise as a pill, well, that would be fantastic. So exercise is a medicine, and that sort of hit home for me. And also, the other thing was that, which again suits me quite well, is that the resistance training or weight training is equally important, or maybe even more important than the aerobic stuff. For so long, aerobic was the thing, right back in doing where aerobics was the thing with what's his name, Richard
Simmons.
Richard Simmons, yeah, that was back at our day. Richard Simmons in his leotards. So it was always a big thing. I'm never a big fan of that. I didn't like that kind of stuff. And Tracy's been on me about the cardio. Got to do your cardio. But now she's singing from a different song sheet, which is great, which is the resistance training, which I'm happy. I'm happy to go out and pump weights and do that kind of stuff. And I'm not a big fan on the running like you are. I try to run, but it doesn't hurt. It hurts me more. And when did it change from running? When did it change from jogging? Like jogging's a bad word now. They say running. Pump people aren't running. It's actually jogging. But you can't say jogging. So yeah, for me, I'm really, really keen on the resistance stuff, and I see the importance of it, and I even notice it now, and I can see the benefits from doing the resistance training, and I can see if I don't do it, how much things are harder to do. And I think what he said was so true with our work and everything else. Now machines do all the heavy lifting, so we don't have to do it. And it just amazes me when I see boxes. You get boxes delivered and it says 2-person lift, and I think, well, these people. There's people that are lifting. Where do they get these people that can't lift like 10 kilos? And I think, really? So anyway, I'm a big fan of the resistance training and the weightlifting, and I'll continue doing that. And that's something that Tracy's really into as well. She does a lot of that now. She's the oldest in her group, and she lifts 2 or 3 times more than what the young girls do. So so there's no way I'm going to avoid it. I'm going to be doing it forever.
Yeah, well, I think the main message that he had was maintaining our muscle mass.
Yes.
So much of our life leads to the loss of muscle mass. So it's both what we do and just simply, or what we don't do, but also just simply aging. But also some of the treatments that he was talking about for cancer, some of the sort of medical related treatments, they waste the muscle. So anything we can do to maintain muscle mass, and of course if we've lost a lot, then we need to try and regain it if we can. And it is very difficult to regain muscle mass once you've lost it. So trying to maintain it from an early age, if you can, is the best thing to do.
I think also that the thing, and he said, and obviously this is for people in going through cancer treatment, how people say, oh, you look good, and so he says it's not vanity, but for me, I want to maintain the body that I've got, and I don't want to be either skinny like a stick or big and the opposite. So I'm happy with what I'm doing, and I think that's so vanity does probably play a part of it.
Yeah, it does, but it also correlates with the functional aspect of your body. So if you're going through a cancer treatment and you're starting to look, you lose your muscle mass, you're going to look frail, and you're not only going to look frail, you will be frail, and that then leads on to other things like falls and all sorts of and osteoporosis. So whatever you can do to avoid all of that. So it might be easier to keep at it because of the sort of vanity aspect.
I think vanity is a bad word, but yeah.
Well, no, I think it's. I think it's. There's probably some deep psychological connection here, and that is why do we value those sorts of looks? And it is actually probably because it means you're healthy, and that's why society has valued it. Is because it signals something about your fitness for life. It's not simply that you will attract a mate. I mean, you will attract a mate because you are healthy. I mean, you don't attract mates for trivial reasons, really.
But there's
although there are some now.
No, that's right, totally. And that's what I wondered too. And the whole thing is too, where I think the hard thing for people to unlearn as well, talking about that, is that we've always thought, tan skin is healthy, and now the big argument against that at the moment, and that's a hard one for people to get over, to say, well, look at me, I'm healthy, I'm tanned. Well, you're actually not. You're now setting yourself down the track to possibly get melanomas.
Yeah, and it's interesting the cultural differences there, because there are some cultures like for many years I was teaching in Singapore, and it was a big no-no to have the sun affect your skin so that you're looking dark. And in fact, people there who had naturally darker skin anyway, regardless of whether they were in the sun, they would use cosmetics to lighten their skin.
I've seen it in Indonesia and Bali, is exactly the same.
Because they felt they viewed a darker skin as being one where people worked outside, and they viewed that as sort of a lower quality of profession than, say, working in an office. So there's very strong cultural connections there.
And you often see that with a lot of, say, Uber drivers, etc. They've all got, because they're outside, in the car, and they have the sleeves on and everything else because they don't want their skin to tan.
So the other thing that I found interesting, there's lots of interesting things in Rob's interview, but one thing that really struck me, and you might have noticed it in my questioning, was that after talking about the obvious benefits of exercise during cancer treatment, I wondered if those sorts of benefits transferred to a preventative side, so that if exercise is so good to help you get over cancer and to deal with the treatment, could it help you prevent getting cancer in the first place? And although Rob was fairly positive on that, he suggested that a lot of the research was probably it reduced risk by anywhere from say 5 to 20%. It wasn't huge, which was surprising to me. But he did say particularly for things like colon cancer, where there's a clear mechanical connection between exercising and keeping things flowing through your body well, so that it doesn't bank up and affect your colon. So I suppose for all the reasons that we talked about the other day with respect to what Tracy was talking about, exercise has benefits in other areas anyway.
Yeah, well, that's right. Even with the colon stuff, if if stuff's moving through you quickly, it's going to prevent not only cancer but other issues that you could be possibly getting as well by having stuff just sitting there stagnant.
So I think Rob's message also towards the end of the interview was that exercise is great, and that's mostly been his focus in all of his career. But he was also saying other things are really good for a long life. And the one that resonated with me was be funny. He said, don't take life so too seriously. And I kept a note recently of some research of the physiological and psychological benefits of laughing. So laughing out loud lowers your blood pressure. And so I've got a quote here from a researcher. It says, people who laugh a lot enjoy lower blood pressure, improved concentration, and lower levels of anxiety. So this is Dr. Jennifer Wild, who's a consultant clinical psych and associate professor at the University of Oxford. And she goes on to say that positive humour is also linked to mental toughness, and people who see the funny side of life's obstacles are often more resilient to them. And then there's another Japanese study in the Journal of Epidemiology found just that daily frequency of laughter was an independent risk factor for all-cause early death. So in other words, laugh more, live longer.
Die later.
So I think that's a great message for us all.
Yes.
We try our best on this show. We're not naturally funny, but we do our best.
No, we're not. Well, we are. We tone it down. We tone it down because we don't want, we can probably make everybody laugh, but we're just toning it down.
Yeah, we want them to listen to us.
That's right, exactly.
No
guys rolling around the ground laughing. It doesn't help. Well, it helps us. It doesn't help everybody else.
All right, mate. Well, that's been a great episode. I think we've learned a lot from all of that. So I think it's probably time to close off the mics, drink the rest of the whiskey, and have a few more laughs.
Yeah, mate, that sounds good, and I'm looking forward to that.
Thanks, mate. See ya.
See ya.
It's the Whiskey Talk. It's written and produced by Craig Spielman and Harrie Swanson. All music is written and performed by Craig Spielman. The audio was recorded at the Wardrobe in Perth, Western Australia. We value your feedback about the show, especially any information you can provide on issues we've discussed that we can share with our listeners. We'd also love to hear any whiskey recommendations. Our email address is whiskeytalking@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. We all benefit profoundly from more listening.